invited them for dinner. I had no choice in the matter. I had to. Really, it was the only way. Otherwise, we would have to have dinner there. I would rather not, thank you. God only knows what they'd serve. They seem to be taking their time unpacking. It seems to me if I moved, I'd see to it that the boxes were unpacked right away. These people had been in the house for 3 days, and there were still boxes around. Aggie wanted to know if it was at least clean. Even with boxes, they should keep it clean, she said. I was only in the foyer, so I couldn't tell. When I told Aggie they were coming to our home for dinner, she was not happy. But once I explained the alternative, she agreed it was best that they come here. She always ends up agreeing with me in the end. A good woman that way. She was all in knots, trying to figure out what they eat. I told her not to go out of her way.
The first time he came to our door, I thought he was selling something. And maybe he is. He wanted to speak to the man of the house. Is the man of the house home, he asked. My husband wasn't home, and when I asked if there was something I could do for him, he seemed taken aback. Said he was my neighbor and thought it might be nice to get to know my husband. Wouldn't you like to get to know his wife as well, I thought? But it's clear that he has some sort of issue with women, though I didn't know that until he returned. I tell him Dionté is out running some errands. There are things we needed for the new house. It's bigger than our last. We're moving on up. I tell him Dionté may be back in half an hour. And wouldn't you know, half an hour on the dot, there's that neighbor of ours eager to once again meet my husband. And when I tell him that Deonté's not back yet, he gave me such a look. The kind of look a child gives you when they don't get something they wanted. So now I feel like I have to calm this fool down so he doesn't throw some sort of temper tantrum. So I invite him inside. When I invited him inside, you would have thought I propositioned him for sex. I wanted to tell him, your pasty white ass is not my type. But I don't. And he does come in. But do you think I could get him to move from beyond the foyer? Crazy white man just stood there looking stupid.
When I walked in, he was just standing there, looking stupid. Khai had texted,
Hurry home. There is a white man in our home and he looks lost.
I recognized him as the man who wouldn't leave his front yard when we arrived on our first day. He seemed to be looking for reasons to be in his front yard that day. I wondered if he was taking notes for the welcoming committee. I wasn't too far off the mark. He introduced himself as
Penn Cadman. I'd like to take you golfing.
What an ass, I think. I tell him I don't golf, and I get Khai, who just simply rolls her eyes. Then she suggests that he and his family come to our home for dinner.
Maybe in a week or so. We're still settling in, as you can see, but we'd love to have you and your family.
But then he says,
No. Why don't you come to my home for dinner? My wife would be happy to have you.
I know damn well that if I invited someone into our home without consulting her first, I would never hear the end of it. I tell him that's nice of him and understand if he might want to consult with his wife first. But no, he assures us that she loves to play hostess and then suggests that we come over the next night. I look at Khai, who looks at me and simply shrugs her shoulders, and well, here we are.
Here we are.
Welcome. How are you?
Good to see you again. He answers the door and we are led quickly into the backyard. No tour, no nothing. But not before Dionté hands him the bottle of wine that we bought.
We couldn't come empty-handed.
I'm distracted, not only by the brisk manner in which we are led to the backyard, but also the garden flag. It's unexpected with ancient Greek figurines. Your flag. But he's distracted by the wine. He seems almost mesmerized by it. I explained to him.
Dee and I picked up several bottles when we were in Southern California last summer. That particular one is the Paso Robles blend.
Dionté says.
It's delicious, light, and smooth. I'd be happy to open it. I bought a fabulous bottle opener.
As Dee fishes around for his bottle opener, I explained to him that Dionté is a bit of a wine connoisseur.
Dee's taking classes in tasting and pairing.
I questioned whether or not he's heard anything Dionté or I have said. Dionté, however, is unfazed by this man's odd behavior and continues to share his dreams of being a sommelier. This seems to hit a note with our neighbor, who looks at my husband as if he were some sort of foreigner and says,
My wife and I don't drink. Ah.
Dionté says, and I can tell that he's as put off as I am by the look that this neighbor of ours has given him.
It's not a friendly look, but it's not a look to cause alarm either. I like to think of it as a look of someone who thinks they're in control, but they're not. I offer to take the bottle of wine back, but he insists that it remain on the table. Speaking of the table, damn, the table!
Damn, the table. Woo! A lot.
Shit, it is a lot, especially for folks who claim not to enjoy a fine bottle of wine. It is a table fit for the gods, even more so now with our bottle of wine on there. There is a pine cone topiary at the center, surrounded by fruit. Now, mind you, I don't mean to read into things, but this begs a reading, especially from a scholar like myself. The fruit screams orgy. I look at Khai, who looks at me and mouths.
Swingers?
I wouldn't put it past these two. They're wound so tight. But sadly, my Reblasian radar suggests they're deprived. I question whether they have sex with each other until I hear Penn say,
Unfortunately, our daughter couldn't be here tonight. She had a school engagement.
Oh, you have a daughter. She in high school, college?
She's at the university. She's a business major, our little girl. Studying to follow in her daddy's footsteps. Takes after me. She's a golfer. On the women's golf team.
Oh, we work at the university.
Oh, how nice, they say. And then proceed to tell me how they're both employed at the university. This I didn't expect, and it makes me angry because I like to know these things. There was a time when we vetted who moved into this neighborhood, and I would have known everything about these people. But as it is, I know nothing, and am feeling unsettled with the wine, which I didn't see coming, and reminds me of my youth and their being employed at the university? Oh, I say.
In what capacity?
I'm expecting African studies or some sort of nonsense like that, but instead I get...
I'm an English professor with the focus in Roublé.
And I coach women's lacrosse.
That's how we met.
Lacrosse. We both played. I also teach a class in the classes department. I had asked you about your garden flag earlier. Are you a classicist?
To which he responds, not so pleasantly.
A what?
A classicist. Do you like the ancient Greeks?
Do I like the ancient Greeks?
Do I like the ancient Greeks? I don't know what to do with these people. I don't know who Rabelais is. I don't know what a classicist is. And it feels like they're out to try to make a fool of me. But I hold my own. I won't be made a fool of. So I explained to the woman that yes, I do like the ancient Greeks.
My favorite is Oedipus. Now, there was a guy. He was a great king, helping to rid Thebes of the Sphinx and a plague. A wonderful king.
I'm pleased with my knowledge of Oedipus, but then she has the audacity to question me.
Really? You think he was a great king?
I look at her and notice for the first time that she is far too pretty. Her top is cut far too low, revealing too much cleavage, if you ask me. It's pretty. The top. But my Aggie would never wear a top like that. She's a good woman. Modest, conservative. These people? I look at him, Dionté, and realize he is quite muscular. He's wearing a suede vest and his shirt is tight against his muscles. I hear the woman again asking about Oedipus, and I try to change the subject.
I wonder what's keeping Aggie.
I'm happy to go see if she needs any help.
I wonder if that's a good idea. I don't know how Aggie would feel about it. But before I can respond, she's up and at the door. I watch the door close behind her, and now I'm left with him. He's smiling and seems so jovial. It's unsettling.
Your wife doesn't seem to be much of a fan of Oedipus.
Thinking as a man, he'll side with me, but he says...
Well, he was a pretty terrible king. I mean, he did kill his father, sleep with his mother, father 4 children with her, and bring a far worse plague and fate on the people of Thebes. Then again, Thebes had a history of terrible kings.
He's laughing, and I can't tell if it's friendly or at my expense. I, of course, had forgotten all that about Oedipus. How did I forget that? This evening was not going as planned. I simply wanted to know who I was contending with these new neighbors. We used to vet people. We had a realtor who would do it for us. But then word got out and there were lawsuits. I don't see why people can't have more control over their neighborhoods. I don't see what's wrong with it. It saves me the trouble of learning that my new neighbors are blacks that play lacrosse and read Rabelais, whoever that is. Some black author, no doubt, lamenting the plight of the black people. It's got me hot under the collar just thinking about it. But then I think of my daughter. My little girl. She's always been such a good girl and good with people and smart. I wish she were here now. I wouldn't look like a fool if she were here. But she had a lecture tonight. She loves to attend the lectures at school, and she has got the grades to show it. I use this as leverage.
My daughter Kit is attending a lecture at the business school. She's studying finance.
Interesting. I'm afraid I don't know all the various lectures held at the university. Just the ones in the School of Liberal Arts. I know there's a lecture this evening in the Gender and Women's Studies department. They brought in a highly respected scholar to talk about sexuality in the 21st century. He wrote a book called More Than Pansexuality, The Pansexual Deified. I would be there tonight if I weren't here. It fits nicely into my field of study.
Pansexual?
Pansexual? I wonder who these people are and what values they're bringing into my home.
Yes, it is one of the many sexual identities being recognized and embraced today, at least among the younger folk.
You're not talking about those trans people, are you?
No, transgender is speaking of someone's gender identity. No, this is sexual identity. You know, heterosexual, homosexual, pansexual.
He looks at me dumbfounded, as clearly I've thrown a wrench into his limited knowledge. So, I briefly explain. Pansexual is someone who's not interested in their partner's gender. They may partner with anyone, male, female, transgender, gender non-binary. And he says, clearly bothered, just as Khai returns from the kitchen.
That's just a bunch of mumbo jumbo.
Uh-oh. What are you two talking about? Dionté, you're not getting Penn all riled up with your talk of Rublé.
Not at all, dear. I haven't mentioned Rublé at all.
Well, that's good.
No, I was simply defining pansexuality for our dear neighbor.
Now I should pause here and state without any equivocation that there is nothing dear about this neighbor to my wife and I. My wife and I didn't crawl from under some rock. We know what we're dealing with. We know we're only here to be interrogated, and it's disheartening, sure. But why not let them know who we are? And have some fun while we're at it. Isn't that right, my love?
Most definitely. But don't rush it. I know the climax is nearing, but you know I hate it when you end too soon.
Indeed I do. Well now, where were we?
I was simply defining pansexuality for our dear neighbor. You see, he mentioned that his daughter, Kit, was it?
Yes.
Had a lecture this evening at the business school. Well, I simply mentioned a lecture at my school about pansexuality. And so I simply defined pansexuality.
Well, that seems harmless enough.
Only clearly it's not harmless because Penn is looking unsettled. He keeps looking at the kitchen door, awaiting his Aggie, who, might I say, is as repressed as he is. I don't think that woman will ever be satisfied. I looked at Dionté and say,
Don't you have a kid in your class?
I do. Interestingly. I'm sure it's not your daughter, though. No, indeed a different Kit. Because this Kit is immersed in the gender and woman studies mumbo jumbo. And I'm quite certain it's polyamorous.
Ooh, fun.
Well, she's certainly having fun.
Our neighbor looks angry now. I mean, for real. He proceeds to tell us how his daughter wouldn't do that. Of course not, I say. I didn't mean to imply that she would. Although there's certainly nothing wrong with it if she did. And he begins to lose his shit. For real. But quite frankly, I think he might have lost it a long time ago. Probably when he gave up drinking fine wine. He says,
I invited you people into my home on good faith.
which is a load of crap.
crap.
And here you are bringing your vile ideas into my home, implying that my daughter is depraved. Where's my wife?
She's in the kitchen. When I left her, she was basting. It looks like she still has a lot of basting to do still. And clearly, we've upset you. And while it was not our intention to leave you unsettled in this manner, I'm wondering, Dee, if we should leave.
I stand in agreement. We should go. I graciously thank our host and offer to take the bottle of wine back. I tell him I meant no harm in bringing it into his home, but he's so angry he won't let me have it back. He says,
I'll keep it, thank you, as a reminder of your debauchery.
and Khai and I smile. We're happy to let him have a bottle of wine, as he may need it more than us. And now at this point in the evening, I'm getting far too much pleasure and getting far too much enjoyment that I can't help myself. I do hate to leave our neighbor up a tree after all. As we go to exit, I stop and notice a family photo in the window. And Khai, who's feeling just as mischievous as I am, sees the photo and says,
Your family is beautiful. And your daughter is lovely.
She nods at me. I smile and place my hand on our dear neighbor's shoulder and feel the man tense and then give ever so slightly. So in need and say, let the Bacchae begin, and exit.